What's up, guys? So I know I don't do this very often, but I definitely wanted to touch on this Warren Buffett nonsense that just came out. For those of you who didn't see, Warren Buffett was recently interviewed by CNBC. The person that was interviewing asked a question, have your thoughts changed on Bitcoin? And he essentially went off on a short little tirade of like why he didn't like it. Now, the first thing that's funny about this to me is that Warren Buffett comes out every quarter, give or take, with something he doesn't like about Bitcoin. So before it was rat poison, or it was a fraud, or it was silly, or whatever he says about it, he always comes out with something, I swear, every quarter, like it's on Berkshire Hathaway's schedule to say something bad about Bitcoin. And so here is like a little section of what he said about Bitcoin.
Fleetingly, has your position changed on Bitcoin?
No, I mean, it's too bad, but Bitcoin, it's ingenious, and blockchain is important, but Bitcoin has no unique value at all. It doesn't produce anything. You can stare at it all day and no little Bitcoins come out or anything like that. It's a delusion, basically.
So we've gone from rat poison squared to a delusion.
Well,
kind of an upgrade.
Yeah, I don't. Who knows where we'll be next year? But I'm really sorry it happens, because people get their hopes up that something like that is going to change their lives, and it was a very ingenious thing to figure out how to have a limited supply and make it harder more expensive to create them as you go along, and all that sort of thing. But it doesn't. The function, and this is explained to me by people a lot smarter than I am, but they say blockchain does not depend on Bitcoin. And J.P. Morgan is talking about creating their own, JPM, and it'll be worth $1. I mean, it's matched to the dollar to dollar, and I'm sympathetic to people that want to.
So his first point I want to address is the Bitcoin is a delusion comment. This is either unfactual based on ignorance, or he's straight out lying. Because if he had done any research, he would know that Bitcoin is backed by billions of dollars in computing power. You've seen those warehouses full of miners. That's what backs the actual network of Bitcoin. That's what runs the blockchain. That's what runs the transactions, are these miners. So it's backed by billions of dollars in computing power. The second thing is it runs on the immutable Bitcoin blockchain. It runs off of proof of work. Those miners solve cryptographic equations to be awarded Bitcoin. So to say it's a delusion kind of appears to me to just be lying straight up.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my gosh, stop fucking lying.
Not to mention the fact that he says, he gets this information from people who are a lot smarter than him. I think that's interesting, because I think in general, the people he'd be getting his advice from would be people, on his team at Berkshire Hathaway that are obviously extremely entrenched in the current financial system and probably wouldn't want to see a new paradigm. So I think this is probably a lot of confirmation bias of where he's getting this information from.
That does not make sense.
The second point is he says that Bitcoin has no unique value. I think this is hilarious because, first of all, Bitcoin is the most free market currency that exists in the world, and that's probably why he doesn't like it. If you looked at Max Kaiser's post about what Warren Buffett said, he essentially went through the fact that Berkshire Hathaway has bought back a ton of its own stock, which is really a fraudulent way of manipulating the price of your actual stock to make it appear better than it actually is. And while this is obviously legal, it's absurd from a price manipulation standpoint. So for him to say, it has no unique value is insane. It's the most free market currency that currently exists anywhere in the world. There's no central bank that has the ability to print more of it to destroy the purchasing power of your money, which our central bank here in the United States and most central banks around the world do every single day, is they simply inflate the purchasing power of your money away by printing more and more of it. The next thing is that Bitcoin is unconfiscatable, which is a function that no other currency has. No one can take your Bitcoin from you unless you give them your private keys. So it's completely unconfiscatable for whether that's governments or criminals or whatever. If you have your private keys and you have them stored in the correct way, your Bitcoin is unconfiscatable. So imagine unconfiscatable money. That has extreme value, wouldn't you say?
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
Another unique value that Bitcoin has is it solves the double spend problem. That's the reason that we didn't have real functional internet money before the creation of Bitcoin, because none of these giant companies like MasterCard or American Express had solved the double spend problem. So Bitcoin solved that, thus adding an extreme amount of value. And then finally, and this should be the easiest one by far, Bitcoin is the best performing asset over the last 10 years, period, compared to any other asset. Stocks, bonds, gold, mutual funds, blah, 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 blah. Bitcoin beats every single one of those. That is an extreme unique value. That is an insane amount of unique value. It's the best performing asset, period. So what do you want to talk about next, Warren?
I'd go and visit your mother once in a while.
And finally, and I think this is by far the one that grinds my gears the most, is he says that Bitcoin attracts charlatans. This like hilarious, like dinosaur, no evolution mentality is the same thing we always hear from these big, let's be honest, a lot of times older CEOs that are extremely entrenched in whatever their outlook on life or economies or business has been for the last 50 years. When you look at what Bitcoin can really do, like it's the exact same thing as what the internet was. And that's the same excuse they used for when the internet came out. When the internet came out, they immediately attach it to the fray of society. So they're like, oh yeah, the internet is for pornographers and scammers. That's what the internet's for. It's never gonna catch on. I can think of a few companies that thought that there were things that were not gonna catch on who don't exist anymore. Like maybe this one. Yeah. But the point is, these dinosaur CEOs who are extremely stuck in their ways and are also afraid that change might destroy their business model, I'm talking to you, Warren, they always get in this same argument. If you look at where the internet was when it was first created, when it hit like any type of mainstream adoption in the very early 90s, it was 1% of the population. That's the exact same thing that Bitcoin has achieved in 10 years, in a decade, almost the exact same amount of time. So imagine where Bitcoin's gonna be 10 years from that, 20 years from that, 30 years from that. That is the future possibilities of Bitcoin. It's right on line with the internet. It's easily the internet 2.0. It's the best creation, in my opinion, since the internet came out, point blank. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies will absolutely change the world. Most of these dinosaurs who do not adopt are going to die. This is kind of a statement that I live by, and my whole thing is that if you are not willing to evolve, you're going to go extinct. It's pretty simple. So if you're not willing to innovate, if you're not willing to evolve, you are going to go extinct. And the last one, which I kind of thought was like a, maybe like a Harvard brother plug type of thing, was when he mentioned Jamie Dimon and JPM coin. JP Morgan just recently decided to come out with their own cryptocurrency. This is an absurd thing. It has no functional use cases. You could just easily use Bitcoin. The only reason they're doing this is because they're attempting to innovate. They are attempting to evolve. However, I think it's extremely misguided. But to me, this appears like he's just like plugging him for the sheer fact of like, and now sponsored by JP Morgan.
I work for JP Morgan.
I work for JP Morgan.
So that's kind of what it seemed like to me. He was kind of just cuddling up to another one of his Wall Street buddies. But this whole thing is just, once again, at least for me from an overview perspective, is a dinosaur arguing why he's not about to go extinct. So apart from the daily news, I'm gonna start doing a little bit more of this. If there's something big or something that I really feel like I have an opinion or I wanna talk about on the subject of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain, I'm just gonna do it, just these kind of like one-on-one videos where I give you guys my take and I try to back it up with some real facts. If you guys wanna follow what I'm doing on a daily basis, make sure you check out my Instagram. I'm gonna leave it in the description below. And so you can see what I'm doing on a daily basis. I post a lot of stories. I talk about what's going on in Bitcoin and crypto, and make sure you follow my daily news. It's Bit Blitz, which is your Bitcoin and cryptocurrency news in under 2 minutes every single day. I appreciate every single one of you guys for watching this video, and make sure you drop a comment below and let me know what you thought about Warren's comments on Bitcoin. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace.